Good afternoon. We are back for our panelist session. As a moderator, I'll be handing over to my co-pilot, and please take over as you introduce us to the members that are on the. Over
Thanks,
to you, Anne.
Benson. Thanks, Benson. I think welcome everybody to the last session of today. I'm Anne Gray. I'm from a company called Solutioneers, and I hail you from a very hot Johannesburg today. Hot, and my air conditioning is not working because I have been impacted by load shedding. And I realized that for a lot of you in Joburg, this is your last session, and I am what's standing between you and a cold beverage, or maybe even the swimming pool. So we're going to try and keep this as energetic as possible, as interactive as possible. And what's really important, I've prepared some questions to ask the panelists based on my recent research into digital transformation. But what I really want to do is hear from you, the attendees of the conference today. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please do pop them in the chat, and I'll pull out the really juicy ones. But what I'm going to do is ask the panelists just to introduce themselves, just give us one sentence about where you're from, and then another sentence about why you're excited about using AI and customer experience. And Tommi, because you first on my list, I'm going to ask you to go first, please.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, it's not hot here. From Germany, Saxony, Germany. It's almost cold. I think in the next weeks we're gonna have some snow here. But my name is Tommi Loeffler. I'm Client Solution Executive for AI Services at GK. And so I'm like a key account manager for all the projects we have here with our customers. And I think AI, for especially in retail, is a big topic because the main goal should be to give the end customer a really good personalized customer journey, to get more sales, to get more feedback from them, and to get also more information that you can use with the AI again.
Great, Tommi. Thank you very much. Simon, over to you.
Hi, I'm Simon Bradshaw, and I'm the head of IT for Mr. Price Group. The reason I'm really excited is, we're relatively early in our journey, so we're quite. But where we have basically implemented some AI, and we're seeing great results. So I'm quite excited to see where this goes. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Dino, how about you?
Hi, my name's Dino. I'm head of machine learning at the Home Choice Group, which is a retail and fintech company based in Cape Town, servicing South Africa. I'm really passionate about recommender systems and personalization, and I think that's the key to bridging the gap between the in-store experience and the online experience. I think everyone has realized they need to play catch up now during lockdown. Sales are shifting to digital platforms, and that experience needs to, I think, change and augment using personalization and recommender systems. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, Dino. And lastly, a face that is no stranger, Orediretse, how are you?
Hey, Anne, all good, thanks, and you?
I'm all good.
Good. So from my end, it's actually 2 degrees hotter than where you are. I'm in Hartbeespoort, so it's even warmer. Yeah. I'm actually not even in my office. I'm outside with the windows open. I'm in the other room just to get some ventilation. But anyway, yeah, my name is Ore, and I'm an enterprise pre-sales manager for the Africa region. My passion is solution engineering, and I really liked today's topic because it covers specifically on the retail side of things and how to harness, AI in terms of leveraging on the technology itself and making sure that CX is at its ultimate level in terms of consumers. So I'm really excited to have these conversations and discuss a few examples that I've dealt with in the past with our consumers and brands that we work with.
Super. Welcome, Orediretse. All right. So let me kick off by asking, or maybe making a very contentious point. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'll just keep going. Dino, I'm going to direct this one at you. So 2018, McKinsey published some research that told us that 70% of digital transformations fail. And we've just heard from Pierre in the previous session, and he gave us some success factors in terms of make sure you do these things. But I was wondering if you could share your top tips that would ensure a successful AI implementation and customer experience.
Yeah, I think the key thing is to make sure that everyone is on board with the project. You know, if you don't have your executives and the product owners on board, the project is going to fail. I think that's one of the key things. And the other thing that I found is you need to report back the success to the business. So never stop pitching. You know, pitching doesn't stop once the project is implemented. You need to keep on pitching and showing the results so that everyone is on board with the journey and they can see that it's driving a positive impact for the business and for the customers.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, just to follow on with that question and staying with you for now, Dino, you know, how do you measure success? What are those criteria? The board obviously wants a return on investment, but what are some of the other criteria by which you measure the success of your customer experience initiatives, especially in the digital transformation space?
Yeah, so usually what I would do is get input from a couple of stakeholders, you know, because the board, they want all the financial metrics, you know, so the ROIs, the sales, the increase in revenue. So you have a set of financial metrics. And then when you get to the marketing team and the CX and the UX people, you know, they want to know, well, how long is the customer staying on the site? How many pages are they visiting? What is the click-through rate? What is the bounce rate? So it's those softer, more intimate metrics with the customer. And then it's making sure that when you do your A/B testing and reporting back on the metrics, you take into consideration all of those so that you have a complete picture of, you know, if you deploy an AI solution on the website, on your e-commerce website, you make sure that you are A/B testing it against you know, previous strategies or different types of strategies, and you make sure that you are looking at all those important metrics in your consideration of how that is impacting the customer and the customer experience.
Great. Simon, I wonder if I can direct that question to you as well, sort of early on in the journey. How do you ensure that you get business buy-in, and how are you measuring your success along the way?
I think it's, you know, to that, you know, to Dino's point. I mean, I think firstly that whole change management, having the right change agents in the business, making sure there is buy-in from the top. You've actually from the beginning. This hasn't been a tech-driven project. Your business sponsorship. You have regular steercos. You make sure that everyone is buying into the concept. And again, I really like the idea about the A/B testing as well. Actually, celebrate those small wins, making sure that you are achieving the objectives. Don't take, for example, 2 years to fail. I mean, you can see the percentages are high. If it's not going to happen, like, maybe stop the project, relook at it, and relaunch. Don't flog the dead horse.
Yeah, that's a great point in terms of, recognize when you're failing and pivot. So Simon, staying with you, how have you guys sort of had to structure for success internally? What have you done with resources? Have you set up separate innovation teams? How have you done it?
So we've got a combination. So we've got a strong partner ecosystem. So we're using partners in specific spaces, things we haven't done before. We tend to use a partner to almost as a catalyst to start and understand. And then, then augment that with our team members and in essence upskill those members. We do have an advanced team that specifically is focused on just looking at data, and they drive a lot of our sort of automation, a lot of the RPA type work, a lot of the bots and stuff like that. So it is a bit of a combination, and it's almost like it starts off as a sort of a slightly ring-fenced area, but it's becoming more mainstream and being integrated into the standard IT operations.
Okay, great. Thanks for that.
Cool.
Tommi, if I can turn to Germany now for our German correspondent, where do you see? I mean, that would not be ideal. I mean, given that you are situated in Europe and you don't have some of the challenges that we have here in Africa, what trends are you seeing emerging now into the European market that we should look out for in the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
I think it's going to be everything about digitalization. So we talk a lot about stores without having employees that are just talking to the customer, because the customer has his iPhone or mobile phone, let's call it mobile phone, with his app on it, and a lot of customers just want to check in, go through the items, just put their stuff into the basket and then check out without talking to some people. I mean, COVID is also pushing this topic, that we have manless stores would be too much, because at the end you always need human power in the store to support the AI and to support robotics, for example. But I think this will be the next step in the 3 to 5 years with the stores. And I think when we look into personalization and dynamic pricing, a combination of both will be that we have more touch points we don't even think about yet to the customers. And the goal should be to have homogeneous recommendations, for example, that we don't have in the newsletter another recommendation than in the application, for example. It should be the same recommendation so that we have the best customer journey we could offer to our customers at the end. And maybe one thing to add, it's also, I said, the stores, the AI can also support in, like, for example, fraud detection. Like if we don't have staff in the stores anymore, we need someone who has or we need a big product, let's call it like that. And I think AI can support with fraud detection, for example, in connection with the app on the mobile phone.
Okay, so I mean, what are you seeing in terms of the trends, Tommi? A lot of the examples that you've given are sort of business to customer, B2C. What are you seeing in terms of trends for businesses that are more B2B, so business to business, corporate to corporate, enterprise to enterprise? Are you seeing any trends in terms of AI for that type of customer experience?
We started some years ago with the first B2B personalization project, and it was quite a success. We had a company which had, let me guess, over 20 online shops. We focused on the online shops first, and they started to give their customers a personalized recommendation because they recognized that they have to push the sales, and without upsell, cross-sale with suitable recommendations, they didn't reach the goal. So we had the project there. It was quite successful. And the next step in B2B, because they still have salesperson offline driving to the customer, talking to them. They have a tablet with a tool on it. And in the next step, we want to support the salesman offline with recommendations he or she can use in talking with the customers at the end. So B2B will be the next step. And also with dynamic pricing, we had a dynamic pricing project where the big challenge was, hey, we have different customer segmentations and all of them get different prices. So the first step was to get different segmentations with different business strategies in different countries and different more. And that was a big challenge. But with our solution, we supported the customer so that they could reach for more margin, for more sales without reaching out to the customer too much or to penetrate him, let's say it like that.
That's a really interesting use case. Ore, I saw you nodding. Would you like to add something to that?
Well, look, from my end, from a B2B perspective, I can tell you from Infobip, we've also actually started even investing in that aspect of things, mainly because native integration is quite popular in the region. A lot of organizations are working together to harness on their capabilities. So, for example, if you look at Infobip and the product sets that we have, we work with chatbots, we work with contact center solutions, we work with a solution called Moments. But how many verticals are there? There's multiple kinds of verticals in the industry at the end of the day. And if they provide the relevant requirements to us, we could actually create what we call a bot in a box. So we can create a chatbot for retail banking. We can create a chatbot for e-commerce. We can create a chatbot for B2B solutions in terms of logistics, for example. So it all depends also on the verticals, and that platform integration really adds a lot of value because at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't see the back end integrations that are taking place. And each and every business is benefiting from that. We get to sell our solutions from a chatbot perspective, but our partners also get to productize some of our products, including theirs, as a one single offering.
That's insightful. Thanks, Ore. So I think the next question that I want to ask is, where do you see AI going in the next 5 years in South Africa? So when we've heard from the German correspondent, now let's hear from the African correspondent. As an industry expert, where do you see it going? What do you think we should be double clicking on right now?
Hyper-personalization, making sure that each and every journey for the client is client specific, right? And there's a lot of solutions out there that really cover that. So what we've done is we've actually come up with a few solutions that really leverage off the data that the organization has from a CRM perspective, but then also understanding how their customers are engaging with the brand, right? Gone are the days where you have a blanketed approach where you have all these channels and the client consumes your services based on those channels. You need to be more intelligent than that. You need to actually understand the client behavior. And what I've picked up as well is a lot of organizations are working in silos. They'll have the same strategy, but using different service providers, right? So it makes it a very big challenge for them to do that hyper-personalization approach because they're working with different service providers. But with the right service provider, this hyper-personalization concept that I foresee, I think will be the way to go because companies will be investing on use cases where they know they'll directly impact the client based on their requirements.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So, Dino, as somebody who is sort of feet on the ground, implementing CX, AI CX in South Africa to the South African market, would you like to share with us what is the most successful thing you've done and why was it so successful? What are you sort of really going to brag about when you're standing around the braai?
I don't think about AI.
Okay, around the boardroom table, what are you bragging about, Dino?
I think one of the most important things that we did was create a platform that would speed up our development of solutions, because a lot of our time was spent building the same propensity models, the same recommender systems. So we built a system that could rapidly speed up that process, prototype it. It's basically an AI platform internally for the group. But I think that's a bit of a boring answer because it's not really a solution that the client engages with. But maybe the solution that the client engages with is recommender systems that build on top of a lot of different solutions. So you might have propensities for customers to purchase in certain categories. You also know what customers like that customer look like. So you can use neighborhood-based approaches. So I think sophisticated recommender systems that involve good UX, good personalization, maybe even using a persona in the communication with the customer to really drive and actually then see the change in the customer behavior. Some of the things that I'm actually looking at now is sort of the next evolution of those recommender systems and those personalization systems where you actually start to look at unstructured data and use that in your journey. So for instance, you can now look at items in a retail catalog and find similar looking items to that dress that you're looking at based on the unstructured data that is actually in that image. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm quite interested in now. And the other thing is not only looking at implicit user data in the customer journey, implicit data being, what did the customer click on, what are they browsing on now, but also how do you intelligently collect explicit information from the customers and then use that in the recommendation and personalization loop. So there are some brands that I've seen in the UK. Lyst is one of the companies who, when you download their app, they're a retail clothing company or reseller. And when you open their app, the first thing they do is they ask you a bunch of questions. What is your favorite brand? Out of these different dresses, which would you select? Netflix does a very similar thing. The first time you install the app, they ask you, which of these TV shows did you enjoy or these movies? And then based on that, even though you're a basically brand new customer, they've really got quite rich data that they can use to immediately start building a persona on you and start recommending you relevant products or content.
Thanks for that. Sorry, I needed to turn on some lights. It was getting very dark. Simon, I wonder if I can direct this question that Sufyan has asked, and maybe it's a little bit unfair given that you've sort of primed us that you guys are starting out on this journey. But with all this tech and this AI that everybody wants a piece of, how do you still keep that connection with the customer. And I mean, Mr. Price is a brand that is very connected to its South African customer. And so, yeah, what are your plans in terms of doing that?
Okay, so if I look at that, I mean, my thoughts are the whole idea is we want to meet the customer where they're at. So if the customers want to engage with us on a digital platform, we do that and we do that well. If they want to pick up a call, you know, if they want to speak to an agent or we would call this an associate, they're able to pick up the call and we're able to, as I say, to meet them where they're at. So it's not to force them down a certain channel. I know that a lot of pure play, online retailers just kind of, you can't phone a number. You know, it's kind of like, you know, send us an email or fill out a form and that's it. Well, I think we're always going to keep that personal touch where we'll have that contact center where you can have that human touch if you need. But if you want to self-service, you can do that just as easily. And I think that's an area where we've spent quite a bit of time. If you download the Mr. Price app, you can. There's a WhatsApp bot, and you can literally everything from opening an account. You can do that, but you could do that. You get the same process. You could do that in store if you want. If you're not happy with sharing information, ID numbers, that kind of stuff on a digital platform, you can do that in store. So I think that's I think we'll always have that. Let's call it omni type approach to the whole customer experience, meet them where they're at.
Yeah, and in terms of the change, yes. So go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add something there. So something, I don't want to hijack the question, but something that we found is in building a recommender system for a retail client, we were just sending out these personalized offers to the customers. And eventually it kind of gets a bit stale because you're just receiving these offers from a machine. So what we did is we created a persona. So when you got your personalization email or you got it in the app, there was actually a picture of a lady there who had a name, and she would engage with you with your first name and say, hey, I've selected these 6 products for you. I think you'll enjoy them. Why don't you have a look? And we could see immediately the engagement, skyrocketed once you just created that human interaction, even though it's still a robot delivering the recommendations. From the client's point of view and from a CX point of view, it's a completely different shift in paradigm.
Yep.
That's fantastic. And I mean, there was a question a little bit earlier in terms of retraining your in-store people to sort of understand how the digital channel works. And that's part of the change management. How much effort is going into that, Simon, and how are you guys doing that? Especially with the high staff turnover that you must experience in your stores.
100%. So we have an internal platform that we since we deliver all the new training, and it's not so much of replacing what they do, it's augmenting them. So giving them, for example, what you find, quite often you walk into like any store, and quite often you've done a bit of research, and you probably information. So you'll see we've got a lot of mobile technology within our stores. So the intention is there is also it drives lots of things, standardization. So you get that similar experience between the different stores, between the different brands. Make sure that, for example, the merchandising's done. We can validate the merchandising, the layouts by using this technology in store. So I definitely back to that previous point, like it's augmenting that whole experience rather than actually replacing it. I think we heard from what's happening in Europe, and I think there's still I think we're quite a way behind it. There's lots of reasons why I think that we'll always have quite a high sort of associates in store around that experience, but it's definitely again giving having you'll see we've got in the home stores you have like a kiosk where you can, for example, there's technology there to service yourself. So for example, if you want to buy in store and have it delivered to you, and you don't particularly want to have an extended range, you want to browse through, you can do that there and then in the store. So I think for us definitely there's going to be an augmentation before there's a massive replacement of people if that makes any sense. It's definitely will just enable them new starts to be as empowered as someone that's been there for 6 months, a year, to be able to service that customer in a similar manner across the various stores.
Yeah. Ore, did you want to add to that?
No, I was agreeing with some of the points that Simon was raising. And more often than not, a lot of organizations go with the assumption that as soon as they incorporate AI and automation, the human factor falls away. But it never does. What actually happens is you end up providing probably more intelligent type of jobs for the same stuff that would have done the cumbersome stuff. So firstly, you try to automate as much as you can, but then that human aspect becomes more and more intelligent as they focus on other things that can add value versus the manual stuff that they used to do. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Ore, you were talking about IP as a service. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
iPaaS. So iPaaS is integration platform as a service, right? So you're leveraging off other platforms' technology to get insight. So a good example of that would be, let's say we talk about silent verification or mobile identity. So this is a concept where you are triggering APIs to check if someone exists on the network before you send them a notification. It's cost effective because you wouldn't want to send data to someone and get charged, but you're not even reaching to that specific person. So if you want to, let's say, for example, also authenticate a user before allowing them certain access on the use case, you could actually use silent verification through maybe the usage of data you're getting from an MNO or the bank to say, does this person exist on your database? If you're getting it true, it means they exist, and therefore we proceed with the use case. So there's many ways in which integration platform as a service can really add value. It sort of like speeds up the amount of time you'd have taken to develop a specific solution, whereas you just taking advantage of that specific plugin in order to output the desired results.
Right. Okay. Yes. Tommi, I wonder if you want to weigh in a little bit in terms of using various platforms and trying to sort of knit systems together. Ore spoke earlier about you start small. So if you start small and you have a number of touch points that have been digitized in different systems, how do you make that seamless? And how do you reduce the points of failure in that architecture? If you could maybe talk about that a little bit.
I liked what Ori talked about, the silos of solutions. I think this is a big point in this when we're talking also about omni-channel, because I think the big focus should be, like Ori told, starting small, concentrating on one touch point. If that fits into 100%, starting with the next one. If you go with all the touch points you will have some problems. You have to configure this and that. So I think it's important to have a good project team, to have a lot of but to have regular show fix calls. So for example, every week show fix calls with both project teams on both sides, and that you can talk about challenges. What did we last week? What do we want to do next week? Is there a special offer week we want to promote? Do we have another touch point? And yeah, I think this is really important to keep on track with the customer itself, or with the project teams, because if they lose track or to talk to each other, you can stop the project, because this is really important to have also in the background the human effort. Yeah, I think this is really important. And when we talk about omnichannel, I think it's also important that, as I said before, that you have, for example, you don't have only an online shop, you have only some stores. It's important that you provide your customer the same offers, for example, product recommendations in the app and also in the store,
Right.
and not different recommendations, because they will get diffused by that. And it's important, as we talked about, that you know who is the customer. It doesn't make sense that they send me some offers for skirts or something because I won't buy them. But a lot of customers had that problem. Okay, we don't have that. We don't have a lot of information about the customers, so we just sent out something. That is not good. You have to concentrate on your customer, get the information from your customer, and get them the reward for giving you the information.
Yeah, so some of the work that I've done recently is on customer journey mapping, and specifically looking at, let's map out the customer's journey. Let's find the pits. Let's fill those pits and remove friction for the customer. But then there's also the argument about, well, we can fill the pits, but we also need to elevate the moments. And so how do you decide between prioritizing filling the pits and removing the friction versus elevating those moments of truth that really convert that customer and keep that customer? How do you decide which of those moments to elevate over actually filling one of the pits? Can I pass that question to Dino? Who wants to take it? Give it to anyone.
I don't mind.
Go,
So we actually have a customer engagement platform called Moments. It actually leverages on that. It's very important to have a platform that is dynamic enough to consolidate everything in one place and provide you that
Yes.
rich profile that you require from knowing how to engage with the customer, which is why we actually call the solution moments, finding the right moment to engage with the client. So think of a client who gets onboarded. You wouldn't want to start sending promotional content on the first day. So the processing engine is set up in such a way that it accounts for the fact that what kind of a customer is this? Did we just onboard the customer? Yes. So we might want to just, wait a few seconds or a few hours or a few days to allow them to be onboarded, and then maybe start looking at their activities on the website, see what they like, and based on what they like, let us start proposing certain products that are matching for them, right? So it's really important that you have a central point of maybe data analysis where you can get all the profile information about a client. So on a CRM, you'll get name, surname, ID, and what kind of, for example, products they like. But as you look at information of the app, having an SDK that can collect the information of their activity on the app, what they like, and also information from the website, and then consolidating all the data in one place and looking at all those activities, and then finding the right moment to send the information on the correct channel. So omni-channel is step one. But then once you have omni, you also need to understand out of that omni-channel, which channel speaks best for that specific customer and what time. So it becomes sort of like a time-space continuum. One cannot exist without the other. If someone liked something, when did they like it? And when would they like to see more content about that information?
Yeah, Simon, I mean, this must be something that you guys, that challenges you guys in terms of which moments matter, which ones to digitize first. How do you prioritize?
100%.
How are you prioritizing that?
So we've just been through a whole new journey to enable like a whole new headless architecture we've implemented in the last sort of literally 2 months, so that we can enable a lot of our future, like all the future designs where we can, with the headless architecture, we can fundamentally change the way we currently operate, and we can actually then, we had quite a lot of limitations on the previous e-com platforms, which hopefully we should have moved now, and then we have quite a sort of comprehensive roadmap for the next sort of 24 months. So for us right now, it's about getting ready for sort of keeping it stable through Black Friday, and then we'll see quite a lot of stuff happening over the next 18 months. With this, as I say, we're quite excited about what we have coming down the line.
Yeah, I guess Black Friday is a big test of your resilience.
Yeah.
Dino, we've got a question on the Q&A that says there's a huge challenge on data dependability. Smartphone penetration is still low, but also the cost of data is challenged to customers. How do we tackle this challenge? I mean, as a retailer that doesn't have much brick and mortar presence almost at all, how have you guys tackled this?
So what we've done actually is some of our communications that we send out are 0 data rated, but not only just the message, it's when the customer clicks on the link, they will go to a page, and some of the deeper links in that page will also be 0 data rated. Unfortunately, we're still trying to work out how they can complete a transaction if they don't have data, but at least they can still start to see some of the product and engage with us. What they can do in that process is they can leave I'm interested in this product, or they can maybe start the order process, and then we can call that customer back. But it is a big challenge that we have. And even in just how we select what images to show in certain communications to reduce the amount of data usage, because what we find is some customers are even scared to click a link, so you have to make it very clear that you are giving this link at 0 rated data, you are covering the cost of the data so that the customer knows that it's safe to click this link and engage with you. But I think always just be mindful of how you're constructing those communications and those user journeys, because South African market is very sensitive to data costs. Unfortunate situation.
Yeah, it's one of the 3 C's of customer journey, contextually sensitive. So it's really, really important. Yeah. Great. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat. Let me check the panel. No, that's it. So I'm not going to keep anyone any longer. I think it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you to the guys that have shared their learnings on the journey so far. All the best to both of you for Black Friday. And then to Ure, thank you so much for your presentation earlier. It was so well researched, really great. Tommi, thanks for giving us a glimpse into the future in terms of what's happening in Germany. We look forward to a day when our digital divide is not as wide as it currently is, and we can access all these lovely things. But yeah, that's it from me. I'm going to hand back to Benson now, who will I'm sure bid you farewell till tomorrow.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Have a good
You too.
evening.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you so much, Anne and the team, for that insightful, thought-provoking conversation. We really appreciate. I'd like to thank everyone that attended the session today. We are very grateful. This is our first session. Tomorrow we're continuing again, same time. So we're going to have more presentations focusing on artificial intelligence and customer experience and how we can leverage these technologies to improve our CX, ultimately revenues, and grow our organizations, and see how we can incorporate these technologies and use them together with the human element. Like, I think everyone would agree with me that the human element is always very important. I think all this because we're reiterating the same thing. So we thank you. And those who are still available now, we can always chat on the round tables. They're still open. We can discuss until late if you still have a connection. So you can join any table, and if you've got questions, if there are speakers that are still available as well, you can always attend to the questions from the audience. So with that, also I'd like to thank the sponsors as well, who have made the event possible. InfoPip, we thank you for making this event a success. GK Software, thank you so much. We also like to thank Special Ledge as well, for also making the event possible, and Veloop.io as well. We're grateful, and yeah, let's meet tomorrow again. We continue with the conversations, and let's all have a wonderful evening. And I know others, maybe their day is still starting from different time zones, but on our side here in South Africa, I want to thank you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.